a good chance with this bill, if it were in place and that GPS monitoring was available, Rachel Kerr would still be here with her children today.
We have an update tonight on a First Coast News investigation. Friends and family of this First Coast mother who was killed by the man she had a protection order against have been calling for stronger domestic violence laws. Well, now a bill aimed at strengthening protections for survivors and enhancing penalties for repeat offenders is moving forward in the Florida legislature. It passed a House committee unanimously yesterday after we reached out to the lawmaker who introduced the bill, and she shared Rachel Kerr's story.
Rachel Kerr did what advocates say victims are told to do. She reached out for help, she obtained a protection order against her estranged husband, and she documented every time he violated it. But investigators say in January, just 8 days after Lloyd Kerr was released from jail on bond, he went to her Stark home and murdered her before taking his own life in front of their children. Now her story is being told in Tallahassee.
Despite doing everything right and reaching out to the system for help, the person she feared most was still able to reach her. And now those children will grow up without their mother, and not because she failed to seek protection, but because the only protection she had was a piece of paper.
State Representative Deborah Tindridge says she understands because she's a survivor.
I left a domestic violence situation in 2012 and I came to Florida starting from scratch with just a suitcase and my child. And now that I'm in the legislature and I also know firsthand what victims have to do when it's time to leave and start their life over and the supports that we do need, this is my why.
She introduced House Bill 277, designed to strengthen protections for domestic violence survivors. While presenting the bill to a House committee Thursday, she told lawmakers about Rachel's loved ones calling for change.
Members, I have been following domestic violence cases throughout our state, but this case was brought to my attention yesterday as I was asked to participate in a news story about how my bill and the GPS monitoring could have saved Rachel's life. On February 25th, First Coast News stated, Rachel's friends are calling on lawmakers to pass legislation requiring mandatory GPS monitoring for those who violate protection orders.
Tindridge's bill would create a 2-year pilot program in Pinellas County requiring electronic monitoring for repeat offenders if a judge determines they pose a threat.
What the GPS monitoring with communication would do would create a 500-foot geofence around the victim's home, their workplace, but also use an app on their phone where the geofence would actually follow them where they go. And they would get alert if the abuser is within 500 feet. They would also be able to get a transmission sent over to law enforcement as well.
She would like to see the program expanded across Florida.
We want to create a more comprehensive approach on how can we bring this to a statewide level and set the standard for the rest of the country.
And says her proposal has broad bipartisan support.
18 yeas, 0 nays, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Zoe.
The great thing about these types of bills is that this is something that everyone can agree on and get behind.
Rachel's case is now helping drive the push for change.
I do think that there's a way that we can make sure that their names are a blessing to put cover around other victims that will be going through the same thing. So I'm definitely open to seeing what we can do to create a legacy to make sure that she is a part of the solution, that no other families have to go through what she went through.
So this bill now heads to the House floor next week for a vote. If passed, it would still need approval from the Senate and the governor before becoming law. And this summer, State Representative Tindridge tells me she plans to host virtual domestic violence town halls to hear directly from Floridians about additional domestic violence reforms she could introduce next session. And we, of course, will keep you updated.